Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are and what time it is. I would like to say hello and thank you for persevering through this difficult times on COVID, where I have to record you a video instead of presenting right in front of you, which has its benefits, has its negativities, but nevertheless, I would still take advantage of this great opportunity to compete in the science fair. So, let's start. My screen shows my project plan for finishing my experiment. Yes, my experiment is not done, unfortunately, but I would still like you to judge and review everything I have up to this point. My project was very ambiguous from the beginning, and my fault, I did not put the time and work into finishing this and paying the price. But, anyways, these are the stuff I still have to do. Um, and I mapped it all out into a day by day homework schedule, you could call it, on everything that I have to do to finish it by the 25th when the regional fair is. If I do this, which I'm fairly confident I can, then I'll be all set for the regional fair. Um, Move on. These are my phases I still have to do. I'm up to phase 2 by this point. You might be saying, oh, you're up to phase 2 when there's 6 phases. These two were the longest phases, and phase 3 and after conducts after I do my experiment, which, yes, I still have yet to do my experiment. But I do have everything set up for my experiment and ready to go for my experiment, so this weekend I'm planning on knocking it out and finishing my experiment for both of my sort of, you could call them projects. It's one project, but there's two kind of separate parts to it. Anyways, that's for my PowerPoint. But I do plan to finish it this weekend and do all my statistics and graphing stuff as shown in this project plan. Feel free to pause, if you can, this video and read through this if you want to. It's detailed and I would say lists everything that I need to get done. This is my digital notebook, which I have, obviously, phase 1, which are these slides. These slides were based off a template, and these were the ones that I actually have in my PowerPoint, which I'll be showing you later. These are all the, what do you call them? OneNote web clippings, which I clipped from the web to support and research into more my experiments. So these are always helpful. They give me a lot of insight onto, see if I can find one that actually shows something. There we go. They give me a lot of insight into, airfoils, how they work, KF airfoils, what I'm researching right now, and previous experiments that scientists have done. My project design slides, which basically outline my experiment and everything that's going to be included in it, how my procedures are going to be done, and my forms, which I've submitted. I've submitted them. The only thing I have not submitted is the abstract, which actually I'm going to do tonight, which, yeah. This is Form 1A, Form 1B, blah, blah, blah. Lots of stuff I don't think you'd be too interested in. Alright, on to my PowerPoints. I'll start it as a slideshow. Give it a bit to load. Yes, my project is stalled. Wing airfoil designs versus climb, stall, and recovery characteristics by, of course, me. A lot of my slides aren't just going to be reading off directly what it says, as that would be boring and time consuming, and I don't think you judges would want to sit through a person just reading off their slides, so I'm going to elaborate on what my slides truly mean and what I'm going to do to get through this project and finish it by the 25th. My experiment plan names my name and my class period. Whoa, hit the scroll wheel. It's always going to be experiment plan, actually. Category of this project is aeronautical engineering, which is what I'm researching. My project problem, how I'm going to record the measurements, and my independent variables. It's all a lot of just technical stuff that I have to list, but it's also good to list, as if you don't, then your experiment will get invalidated. My project can have all the materials, doesn't require SCR approval, blah blah blah. Alright, on to my real experiment. This is the meaty juicy stuff. My topic problem is, if the KF Wing Infinite design ideas alters, then will that cause the flight characteristics and stall recovery to increase, decrease, or have no change? Now, what I mean by this is KF airfoils are airfoils, except, see if I can kind of point this out. They have a step in it which Vortex, I could call it a vortex, or an airflow builds up that allows for a much smoother, more laminar airflow across the top of the wing. If you have just all metal there, then there's going to be some turbulent airflow that could cause drag and decrease lift for the airfoil. My hypothesis is basically I'm going to think that if I use the different KF airfoil wing designs, then they will all improve quantitatively over the control group, which is a NACA 2414 standard airfoil that is used on modern airplanes, and there will be less drag and more lift. My null hypothesis, which is something I want to disprove, is when I change the KF wing step and design, there will be no change. And the alternate hypothesis, which is what I want to prove, is if I change the KF step and design, there will be enhanced flight and healthier stall recovery characteristics of the airfoil. The null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis are essential in all experiments, as they're something you want to aim to disprove and prove, and that's what I plan to do. My outcome variable in this experiment is the flight characteristics and stall recovery of the wing designs. What I mean by this is flight characteristics would be how smooth it flies through the air, and that would be measured qualitatively, but there is a way to measure it quantitatively by how fast it ascends and if it ever stalls out or not. And the other the other variable I'm testing is the stall recovery. So these would be two separate things, not combined or anything. And stall recovery would be tested by it going up, intentionally stalling to see how well it recovers. Unit of measurements is newtons of weight, which would be in the wind tunnel, seconds in the air, and distance from the ground. Device that measures it is digital force sensor, a camera, and speedometer. Basic stuff. The test variable would be the different KF airfoil designs, as I've discussed. Now, when I went through this, I actually plan to change it in three ways. The position, which would mean how far it is from the front and back, the angle, which is the angle at which the step occurs, and the depth of the step. Later in my experiment, I realized that the angle of the step would not really matter, as a foam piece this thick would not really matter if its angle was 45 degrees or 90 degrees. The range of values in my experimental groups to be tested was selected because it would provide the most different results between the wings, as opposed to changing the step in other ways, as width. Width would be how wide the step would be. It really is a lot of needed stuff. Control group, as I've already discussed, is the NACA 2414, which is used on a lot of standard modern airfoils that you, me, and a lot of other people ride on every day. My controlled variables in the experiment are the fuselage, which would be used for the flying of the plane, the design and shape of the wind tunnel, measuring devices to use, the materials the wing are built out of, that would be foam, and how the wings attach to the fuselage, the time spent in the wind tunnel, and the way the planes slosh. Again, you see that the software I use to simulate is crossed out. Realize down the road that a lot of the softwares that I wanted to get were either too complicated, too simple, or too expensive. I was trying to research softwares and I came across ones that were $400, $500, and I, as a kid, could not spend that, and even my parents could not spend that, so I had to cross out the software simulations for airfoils. The simple ones that were free did not get the results I wanted to, such as graphs and other stuff. Materials, these aren't really that important, but balsa wood, cardboard, plexiglass, fan, normal wood, launcher for the airplanes, paper, force sensor, measuring sticks, and nothing for safety equipment. Software for simulating is crossed out since I really didn't use the software. Oof, procedures and photos. I am not going to read through all of this as this is a lot of boring stuff, but I have to put it in as naming the specifics on what I'm actually going to do in my experiment is very important. But feel free to pause my video right here and read through this yourself on everything, including down to the nitty-bitty gritties on what I have to do. So there's 4 slides, procedures and photos. 1, 2, giving you some time to pause it. 3, and 4. These all list my experiment from start to finish on what I actually have to do for simulations, which actually I'm not doing, so ignore the simulations part, the wind tunnel, and the real world testing. And you might also be asking, how would you do the real world testing? I use a slingshot that can, um, how would I say it? Launch the airfoils or airplanes at the same speed each time. So it's not me throwing it. That would be invalidation and definitely not valid. These are my photos for my experiment. Um, as you can see on the left, that's my starting point. When I started, that was about, I'd say, September sometime, late September. I eventually graduated from my first wind tunnel airfoils, my first full-size airfoil to use on a real plane. Um, all my wind tunnel airfoils, which are the smaller 4-inch versions, were complete by this point. This is about, I'd say, late October. My wind tunnel design and my exhaust cone. My exhaust cone definitely took a while. That's my intake cone on the left, the laminar section that I have right there, and the test section. All these, sorry, all these are 4 sections of my wind tunnel that I have to put to have the wind tunnel actually work. There's a 5th section called the fan, but that's self-explanatory. I just buy it from Home Depot. This is my fuselage on the left. I use the same fuselage for all my slingshot testing. It's springs that can go out and retract. The laminar section, which is how the wind flow actually gets laminarized. If the wind flow is not laminarized and is turbulent, then the testing which I am doing in the wind tunnel will not work because the wind is just going woo 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 woo. My base for actually holding up my wind tunnel and putting it together. And finally, my finished wind tunnel. My slingshot is still in progress. I have drilled a hole at the front to hold the springs in place, and all I have to do is test it to see the same wing speed as I'm going to use in this finished wind tunnel, which has an anemometer to change the wind speed. And that's it. Um, I believe that is everything for my project, besides maybe my bibliography, which has all my sources, which are basically just clipped from here. Not here. Here. I definitely plan to finish my experiment by the 25th. I'm gonna submit it by the 24th. I consider myself really good on time, except for this. It's totally my fault. I did not finish this, but I would like to see what you think and what you would like to see going forward for me. Thank you all judges for tuning into this, and I wish you a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. Thank you.